Welcome to the Public Safety Committee meeting. I'm Mitchell Englander. I'm joined by Councilmember O'Farrell. Thank you as well. We are actually not going to have a full council quorum, so it'll be communication from the chair, but nonetheless, we'll run it as a committee meeting as well, since it's a committee meeting. So thank you again for being here. We're also limiting discussion to the minimum of the 1 minute for each item, as well as general public comment. If you applaud again, Wayne, you'll be thrown out of here for disrupting the meeting. Do you understand? Do not speak out loud. Do not make any sounds. You disrupt this meeting every single time, and we ask you to leave every single time. And so it's not going to be called for here. Is that understood? Thank you, sir. All right. So, so with that, if the cards are not filled out properly, then I'm not going to call your name. If there's not information that's filled out on the card identifying an actual member from the public, then I don't know who these people are. And so we do have several names that do have actual names on them, and I don't know who these are. So I'm going to just stack them up right here because I don't know who they are. They're not indicating of an actual person's name whatsoever. So so with that, we'll go to open it up first for, you're disrupting the meeting. That's your second warning. Did you want to continue to disrupt the meeting, Wayne? Do you have cards in, Wayne? Because there's no cards with your name on it whatsoever. Is that your name today? That's your name today. All right. So on general public comment, we'll go ahead and open it up to you. It'll be for items specifically under the purview of this committee for Wayne for 1 minute on general public comment.
We have some very important people here today. A reward was offered for $75,000.
This is general public comment, not for items that are under the agenda. You've got cards on those items.
Okay. So when people are invited to claim a reward and they don't get that reward, then those are snitches with stitches who become police bitches. And we don't want people to become police bitches. We want people to get the reward if they apprehend the criminals. But we seem to have a problem with our reward system when somebody who rarely claims the reward winds up not getting the whole amount. And there's one reason why. It's because the people here are fucking liars. That's why. It's because they lie. You say $75,000, for example, you don't get shit. Stop fucking lying.
Also, Wayne, you're not going to use that language here, and you're not going to yell into the microphone and be disruptive. And if you do that again, you're going to be asked to leave. Okay. So that concludes general public comment cards. I don't believe we have any other cards in on general public comment. We do have cards on specific items. So with that, Wayne, you have a card on every item, so come on up on every item.
For a total of 5 minutes.
Total of 5. Stick to the items. Do not yell. And do not be abusive to the general public that's here.
Board of Police Commissioners and City Administrative Officer report relative to retroactive authority to apply for and accept a 2015 poll covered the Forensic Science Bullshit Improvement Grant Program Award from the Bullshit California Governor's Office of Bullshit Emergency Services. I would vote no. Then number 2, the Urban Area Security Initiative Grant. It doesn't exist. So vote no. And vote no on Englander for supervisor. Number 3, Board of Fire Commissioners and City Administrative Officer reports. We don't need it. Vote no. Number 4, the Board of Police Commissioners report accepting the donation of a venue for $25,000 for the Police Department Southeast area. We don't need it. Vote no. Then we have a graffiti apprehension award in the amount of $1,000 for the incident. Number 5, I agree with. We should pay the taggers $1,000 for their wonderful artwork. In fact, on number 5, the tagger earned a national award for artistic integrity in tagging, and he's nominated for a commemorative Oscar for his tagging. And I think taggers should be recognized as artists, and they should be given grants by the state and federal government for the artistic beauty that they put around the whole city. So yes, thank you for the $1,000 grant award for the taggers. It will help him buy new spray paint and all kinds of wonderful things to help beautify the community with such words as bonk and MSXIII. I'm trying to think what does MSXIII mean? I'm trying to Google that, and I could not find it. It couldn't mean MS Matasavatrucha. So vote no on anything except number 5. Number 6, we have the Operation Center activation. And again, that's good because you don't want to make sure to be ready for the riots that are going to happen in the city, especially for the Armenian Genocide Centennial March. And this Armenian Genocide Centennial March, on the city council, there's a terrorist named Paul Krikorian.
You're not on the agenda item.
Armenian genocide marches were led last year by this councilman, Mr. Krikorian, who almost caused a riot at the Turkish embassy. Now, Turkish officials are on guard because Turkish officials know that their consulate needs to be on fucking lockdown because the march is going to be happening from city officials claiming falsely that the Turks killed the Armenians in a genocide and not a legitimate war, which is actually what happened. So on behalf of all the Turkish people who live in Los Angeles and LA County, please beware of people like Paul Krikorian with his marches, which are really attempts to run the Turkish community out of Los Angeles and create racial discrimination against our fellow Turks who live here in Los Angeles. Because the city of Los Angeles, under 42 U.S.C. 1983, is guilty of civil rights violations for discriminating against Turkish citizens by promoting something called an Armenian genocide, proven by the European Court of Justice to be a complete and total unproven fabrication. Please see your UN journals and George Clooney's wife, who unsuccessfully delegated that argument to the court. Now, the rest of this stuff, there's not much time left. We have FEMA on number 11. FEMA is no good. FEMA is supposed to be for disasters, such as my ranch up in Lake Hughes. They don't give me money for that, but they give you port security crap, so vote no on that. But you don't have a quorum, so you really can't vote yes or no on these items. But the Da Vinci apartment fire emergency operations, the Da Vinci people are innocent. Innocent, innocent, innocent.
All righty. Thank you, Wayne, once again. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and move items 1, 3, 4, 5, items 6 and 7, 8, and 11. So those will be approval from the chair. Okay, and then let's go ahead and on item 2, we actually have, I believe, a technical amendment correction from the CAO.
Yes, item number 2 has, under 1C, under transfer 2, the account fire, they would like to change the account to 46M 138. It's listed as L. And then also on item number 2, where it says authorize the controller to transfer funds, the account should be 46M 299.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and accept those technical corrections and amendments and approve it with those.
And also for items number 6, 7, and 8, those should be, would you like those to be noted and filed?
6, 7, 8, yes,
Great, thank you.
please. Thank you very much. So with that, let's go ahead and take item 9. And that's on excessive storage. I'll turn it over to Councilmember O'Farrell on that one.
Thank you. Are we going to read the item? Yeah.
Yes, item number 9 is a report from the Los Angeles Fire Department relative to the steps that can be taken to address, evaluate, and improve the fire safety protocols when dealing with issues posed by dwellings occupied by individuals who engage in excessive storage.
Thank you, Mr. Espinosa. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we have today, for this item, we have Inspector Paul Terrace of LAFD, I believe. Yes, thank you, Mr. Terrace. I believe we have Kim Arthur and Eric Jakeman of LADBS, Inspector Pressy Sandoval of HSID, and then Theon Perkins, County Department of Mental Health Genesis Program. Before I have you come up, I just kind of want to give you an explanation of where we are and what we're doing, and then we'll get the presentation on the collaboration with my office in the last year and a half on this issue. We've all had to deal with excessive storage in all of our neighborhoods. It affects virtually every community across the city, incidents of excessive storage, otherwise known pejoratively as hoarding. And it is a mental disorder that leads to very, very dangerous situations. They not only endanger the individuals who are afflicted with the mental disorder, but the surrounding neighbors, as well as first responders who have to oftentimes come to the rescue or come to a fire. And in the case of Atwater Village, with one particular address, in, I believe it was December of 2013, there was a fire which exposed a hoarding case to the city of Los Angeles and even to my office, and someone who had been very active in the 13th District for the better part of, well over a decade. This particular address hadn't even come to my attention yet, but some of the surrounding neighbors knew about it. It was hidden, the situation was hidden behind a tall fence, and at the front of the house you would never know that just beyond the doors it was chocked full from floor to ceiling with excessive storage, both inside the house and outside, including an accessory unit in back. In some instances, about chest high, all the way through. So there was a fire which almost burnt down an entire commercial district. It almost burnt down the neighbor behind the house and the church next door to the house, and really exposed this issue. And many dozens of firefighters showed up to the scene from many different companies. And when I arrived, several firefighters were trudging through the whole area, stomping through God knows what they were stomping through, with things falling over their heads in that accessory unit. A man had to be rescued from that accessory unit. In this particular incident, no one was severely injured, and I thought that was a minor miracle. 13 months later, unbeknownst to me, nothing had been done about it, and the house catches fire again. This time sends the two residents in the front of the house to the hospital, kills their dog, and results in the exact same circumstance again, endangering the lives of firefighters and all of the surrounding neighborhood, including the business district that it's adjacent to. And it exposed a real lack of city's response to the issue for me. And we came to learn that essentially not much had been done about this particular address, even though it was well known to the city and to the county. Not about blame here at all, just that it exposed the deficiencies in our communications amongst the departments, fire department, building and safety, housing, and the county with mental health services, which led to a series of actions and a series of meetings that my office had. So that kind of brings us up to speed in the sense of taking one particular hoarding case, which could probably be multiplied across the city. So many people, and probably the county, right? It's, as I mentioned in the opening, it's something that afflicts every community. Even in my community of Glassell Park, I kind of know where the hoarding cases are, excessive storage, and we are very aware, and we pay attention, and we focus, and we intervene when we can. And now we have a collaboration that is really great, because I think that collaboration had fallen apart. Lastly, before I have you address this, so often times we'll read a report where someone died in a home fire. More often than not, it's because someone is living in a situation where there's excessive storage. It happens a lot. And oftentimes the outcome isn't good. Now that's one issue. It endangers the person who lives in the house. But I'm very, very concerned about our firefighters being needlessly, unnecessarily put in these dangerous situations because we aren't doing enough about the situation before it occurs. So that's really what I'm trying to get to here. And with that, I would love for any of you to begin, and I have some questions. So maybe what we could do is have someone kind of explain the process from your end, so it's not just coming from me in terms of, let's start with the fire department in terms of where things are now. And then I'm going to have some questions for you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Councilman O'Farrell, Councilman Englander. This came about, as you said, due to the fire in your district, and it was brought to the fire chief's attention and the fire marshal's attention, and that prompted them to make the position, my position, of excessive storage inspector. And over the last year, we've codified who is responsible for each area of jurisdiction, and the fire department has taken the lead and will make the necessary notifications to building and safety or housing, and also the LA County Mental Health. Ms. Perkins is my go-to person when I have a mental health issue that I need to refer to them. But we've made the excessive storage at lacity.org email account where anyone in the city can report excessive storage, and then I will make the necessary referral either to building and safety if it's open and vacant, or to housing if it's a multi-unit. And I've worked with the city attorney in getting search warrants to make entry into properties that the people aren't receptive to. And we prosecuted some people and resulted in them receiving probation and necessary cleanup by a certain date. We've also utilized the fire department's brush clearance contractors that are partially funded to do excessive storage cleanup. And the strides made have been impressive. I mean, everybody knows what part they play, and now we anything that comes through the fire department is now delegated to the correct person.
Mm-hmm. Okay, terrific. Would anyone like to jump in? Sure.
Good morning, Councilman O'Farrell. Good morning, Councilman Engler. My name is Kim Arthur, Chief Inspector, Code Enforcement. We totally agree with the fire department, and we look at excessive storage as visual blight. And when we get a referral from the fire department, or we get a referral from anybody that lives or resides in the city of LA, we'll go out to these locations, knock on the door, and try to gain entry. Most of the time cannot. Right. So what we'll do is we'll walk, from what we can see, where we have a legal right to be, we'll photograph the excessive storage on the exterior of the building, issue an order to comply. That order to comply comes with a CVF fee, code enforcement violation fee, $356.16. And we'll work the case until there's compliance, the visual blight is gone. If we can get inside, and then we look to make sure that all passageways and all exit ways are open, and we can do that. Mm-hmm. And then also, as Inspector Terrace from the fire department brought up, open vacant buildings, big priority. Mm-hmm. And when they're vacant, we go in right away, clean them up with city contractors, board them up, and secure them from vagrants, from any criminal activity. Mm-hmm. And so that's our involvement as far as the code allows us.
Terrific, please.
Inspector Sandoval from Housing Department. Thank you for inviting us. I've been in communication with Angelo since the beginning of this meeting here last year, and I work real close with Paul Terrace and the fire department. But our department, the housing department, does systematic inspection once every 3 years at all residential properties, all rental properties. And out of these SCEP inspections, our staff, we sent some stats. I was just asking Angela if you got the stats that we generate out of our CRIS system. In the systematic inspection program, there were 751 notices to comply issued to different tenants. Some of them, 100% compliant. Some of them, they clear before the 30 days are up. They give them a 30 days to comply.
And Mr. Sandoval, were these from excessive storage?
Correct.
Okay,
751 cases last year, just in 1 year. If you have the sheet, I think I gave Angela the sheet, in your district, it's broke down by each district.
Those are primarily external issues, not internal to the actual dwelling units. Is that correct?
So,
Because you don't have access. Access is obviously, unless you have a consent search, access is the biggest issue. And so that's primarily dealing with excessive storage around the curtilage and perimeter. Is that correct?
we actually go inside of those tenants' units
Every 3 years.
once every 3 years, correct.
Is there a backlog on that, or we're actually
We're-
caught up
we're right on
citywide?
top. We're right on top. And then besides the systematic inspection program, we also have complaint program that property managers
Sure.
or family members, sometimes Genesis calls us, and we also respond to complaints. And those complaints were 39. There are a few instances that some of these tenants are in a very bad position that we summons Mr. Paul Terrace, and we would what we call a red tag that unit. We immediately vacate that unit before we have any kind of destruction in this unit. So we're right on top of it, work real close with Paul Terrace and Genesis, and that's our report for now.
Thank you. Ms. Perkins?
Good morning. I am representing the Department of Mental Health and specifically Older Adult System Care Bureau. Genesis has been working with hoarders since probably 2005 when Dennis Bogart used to be Paul's job, and we worked with him quite frequently.
I remember Dennis well.
Yeah. Our response is we have to have this village to get anything done, because hoarders, and that's what I'm going to call them, hoarders have no desire to work with us. Go away. Literally, go away. Why do I have to bother with you? I'm fine. I'm keeping my house just like it is. But when we have Paul involved, and specifically Mr. Sandoval, it puts a carrot. We have something, well, if you work with us, I can get them to give you a little bit more of an extension. We can get this, kind of start getting you to move and start thinking about getting rid of some things. And it's a slow, long process. It works quite well when we can all get on the same page and we have some time. Now, the cases that they need to be abated and it's going to be done in 30 days, literally what happens is they'll call us out and say, can you show up? And if, for example, if the older adults don't have a plan and they have some deficiencies, then mental health really steps in those particular cases. Because this is under the older adult system of care, our primary goal is to take care of the older adults that come with this.
And that's 60 and over, correct?
60 and older. We do consult on other cases throughout the county, but we're county-wide. So,
Right. Do you get referrals from PD often? Because oftentimes you're going to have
Yes.
law enforcement in a scene for whether it's domestic, whether it's whatever the
department.
call is in,
Neighbors.
for another reason.
yes.
They're there for another reason, but they're on-site, inside, in plain view, knowing
Absolutely.
full well there's other issues.
Absolutely.
And then you'll get referred from
Yes,
that.
and we get lots of referrals from Adult Protective Services, which is how we try to handle a lot of the cases, because lots of these individuals have private insurance. We're the county. We can't bill Kaiser or anybody else like that. So if they come through APS, it gives us a little wiggle room to try to get in there and begin to work with these individuals. Because cost is still an issue, and it is a long process. If we've been successful with really getting some people to declutter and dehoard, and they're still maintaining. However, you do a big cleanup, 3 years, it'll be back.
It's coming back, yeah, unless the root cause is addressed.
Is
And
addressed.
that's a tough one, because just like in the homeless population, there's so much service resistance, right?
Absolutely.
Because of the psychology. So one thing that I was going to say, Mr. Chair, is that when I called the first meeting with Chief Terrazas and just everyone I could think of who we needed in that room, it became really apparent to me that where we were falling down was with single family for the most part. That housing department has a system that's been in place for a while, which is why we see such strong compliance.
Absolutely.
And so what I wanted to do was learn from that and adapt that model to everything that building and safety has jurisdiction over, and then strengthen the focus on the hoarding cases in our neighborhoods. And so that's where I was coming from. That was a reveal that was made very, very clear in those first initial few meetings. So some of the questions I have, and thank you all for being here and all of your work. At the moment, I am very encouraged and have been for a while because of this collaboration that's going on. But I still have some questions, and that is, Mitchell just asked in terms of referrals, about how many cases does the City of Los Angeles have referred currently to the county? Do we have that figure? Both housing, building and safety, fire, everyone.
Off my head, I can't give it to you.
It'd just be interesting to see what level of referral we have, both with the Genesis program and outside of that program.
Do we track that? Do we?
I can pull that data. I just don't have it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that would be helpful, I think, to find, and in those numbers we can get a sense of a deeper sense of the level of collaboration, because it's critical.
Councilman,
Yes.
I would say that 90% of the referrals that I get for the fire department, I always fill out an adult protective services report, because in general the people that are hoarding are elderly. So I would say a large, almost 100%, 90 to 100% are all referred to adult protective services, which will refer it to Genesis.
Which begs the question, are some of those referrals made to the Department of Aging? Because a lot of it is the result of shut-ins. And sometimes our aging in-place population becomes shut-ins. And that department could also be a resource for you. How many cases have been closed since the creation of this task force?
Approximately about 102 cases have been referred to me, and then I've cited and we had voluntary compliance. Approximately 8 to 10 are in the legal system right now. We've just had a prosecution of a property in Tahunga where the property owner pled no contest and is on probation for 3 years and will comply by April the 12th, or he'll be back in court to deal with the judge. But we're getting good compliance. It's just the small amount of people that don't want to comply, that's where the hiccup comes in. We've identified several tools. We have the legal prosecution. We're investigating an abatement warrant, and then in the most severe cases, we'll use the brush clearance contractors to abate the exterior and interior if needed.
Well, I'm encouraged again because that the case in you said Tahunga could be a life already saved. I mean, these situations that I've been in them. I went to that house in Atwater Village. It's miraculous that it went on for as long as it did and that no one died. And then in terms of 102 cases, that's across the city of Los Angeles, right? So that's 102 cases of locations that maybe we didn't really know about to this level before. So that's encouraging. And you mentioned 8 voluntary compliance. Talk about the penalty sort of structure and the enforcement. Like, what's the first time? What happens the first time you interact? What happens the second time if there's not compliance? What happens the third time? And at what point does it get referred to the courts?
Well, at this point, the general counsel for the City of Los Angeles Fire Department is recommending that we pursue mainly prosecution to the courts. And the courts will impose their fines for misdemeanor, and I'm not sure what those fines are, but if the fire department uses their brush contractors, it's basically the same and Councilman Englander knows it's a $1,068 administrative fee, a $356 re-inspection fee, and the cost of clearance, which could be anywhere from $5,000 to $25,000, which is put a special assessment on their property tax.
After how many inspections would you impose that? After how many?
2 inspections.
2?
Yeah, they have 20 days to comply. After the second inspection, if they fail, the property is posted and awarded to the lowest bidder, and that property is abated.
And we can also go through a municipal citation program under ACE as well and
Yes,
cite.
they're
So we've got a couple
investigating.
different avenues
that's
now
good.
that we can take.
I've long felt that the fire department could sort of step up their, their motivation to actually identify these single-family homes that are hoarding cases. And it seems as though maybe you have,
Yes.
since this task force was, and the reason being, this is a completely preventable situation. Completely preventable. What happened in Atwater Village twice didn't need to happen at all. So that's why I just keep, staying on this theme. I think there's a real opportunity to do something about it. Okay, so we have this task force. The system is more or less working, I feel. What more can we do to improve it and to tighten it up further? Anyone?
Go ahead.
Anyone, yeah.
Well, on Monday, we're having another meeting with Fire Department General Counsel, Mr. De La Guerra, and we're going to see if there is an ordinance. The problem with when you're dealing with somebody's home is the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution. And you can't just go into somebody's home and abate it because then they say, well, it's a legal search and seizure, even though the fire department has the authority under the municipal code. The Fire Department General Counsel is concerned with the liability to the city. So we're investigating maybe an ordinance that would assist us in going inside the house. But at this point, we're basically relying on the court system to prosecute.
Understood, and I would be the last to suggest that we should infringe on the Fourth Amendment. But it's good that we're approaching this, very, very in a determined fashion. Anyone else? Yeah, I bet you probably have ideas on how we could improve. Please.
Well, Councilmember, also to go along with the fire department, Paul Terrace has set up another meeting on April 12th, so us as a group can get together and brainstorm what we could do. We're constantly working together to figure out what avenues we can take in order to rectify the known cases that we have. And so our next meeting is, we have meetings scheduled out to continue this.
Okay.
I just wanted to add, Councilmember, currently we have one case that the tenant is a hoarder, and as all of them, we give referrals to Genesis. In fact, they did an evaluation on this particular tenant.
I knew the one.
And the tenant got legal aid to get involved, and they're asking for special accommodations. The persons are not all there, and we don't want to put anybody out there. But if there's anything as a council member you can do is to allow that if they need to be moved to a different location, some of these people need to be in a controlled environment, some kind of a retirement home or adult people live, and they're making it real tough for us to get those kind of people out of their units. And respectfully, we request to see if you guys can evaluate and maybe get if somebody's trying to evict somebody under those circumstances, special accommodations, sick people, whatever. That needs to be addressed.
I think the first step we need to take from the city side is interface with the Department of Aging. And so we'll work on that. And that's the first step, and we'll go from there in terms of how we can, assist in that way.
Okay, did you want to move this on to council then too, or keep it in committee?
I have some recommendations here, but I'm going to let Ms. Perkins.
I want to respond to that because there are cases that will come to the Department of Mental Health, and although people may have a mental illness, they don't lack capacity. And this particular individual does not lack capacity. And because people have the right to tell us to bug off, that is the consequence of it. When there is a carrot that she is going to literally be evicted, then she might be a little bit more willing to accept some services and let us help her provide finding different housing. But the reality is she has capacity. This particular individual, and capacity is determined, of course, by a judge in court, but she's not cognitively impaired. She knows what she's doing, and even her nephew or whoever he is that lives with him, you can function quite well with mental illness.
Oh,
and so
I'm aware of that.
it kind of ties our hands.
So the chair is asking what my recommendations are, and I have them. So I started with feeling that we've really stepped forward in a positive way with this collaboration, with this task force. So here's what I'd like to do. I would like to, Mr. Chair, just approve the item, but also instruct the city attorney with the assistance from the LAFD to report back with an analysis of existing ordinances, which I think you're going to have a meeting specifically about that, so that's in keeping with what you're already going to do, and potential ordinance amendments that would grant the fire department greater authority to abate hazards related to excessive storage cases more expeditiously. And secondly, instruct the LAFD to work with other relevant departments and report, and let's include the Department of Aging, and report on the feasibility of establishing an MOU to ensure that excessive storage inspections and compliance issues remain a core function and that interdepartmental roles remain clear. I think that we're up and running with this and it's moving in the right direction. I want to memorialize everything so that when I'm not here or Mr. Englander's not here, it doesn't kind of fall apart again and then we're back in the same boat. I think we need the infrastructure created to keep this going in an official way.
Okay, with that, I would suggest on those reports can actually, we don't need full council to weigh in and instruct all the departments to do that. If they're willing to do that, you've got the working group anyway.
Sounds like it.
If you could, is 30 days reasonable, around 30 days to come back with that information to this committee?
I think so.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and hold it in committee then. It would make sense to bring that information back to this committee in approximately the next 30 days. We'll work with you on that. And I also want to remind folks that this isn't a problem that we're going to solve ever. It will not be solved. It's not a problem that is new. It didn't just come up. It's a problem we deal with and we've probably dealt with since the creation of shelter, that people just hoard things and create a very unsafe and unhealthy environment, and oftentimes because of mental health or other issues or age and in different capacities. So it's a problem, though, that we have to deal with and change how we're dealing with and use all the tools that we can to make sure that their lives are protected as well as their neighbors. And so that's really what it boils down to. It's always going to be a problem. It's not like there's a cure that's out there or some magic
Mr.
wand.
Chair, that's exactly it. Where our opportunity is improving the process on how we deal with it as a city. And that's what has become abundantly clear to me since being in office. And so I thank all of you for the great work you're doing. And I think we're making a lot of progress here.
Thank you.
Okay, so typically what we would do then is move this to council since there are instructions to departments, but you guys are indicating that you've already got the working group, you're willing to do it and bring the reports back so we could just hold it in committee, and we'll do that, hear that again, in approximately the next 30 days.
Thank you.
1 month to 6 weeks. Okay, great. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item, we've got two more items. One is the Westin restrict sale of butane, and it's to direct the city attorney to draft that. I don't have a problem with it. I just have a question about it. Is there anybody from Westin's office here to speak on that? No. Yeah? Maybe. Okay. From the department? No, we're from the department. I'm sorry, sir? We're from the department, we're not from Westin's office. Yeah, no, you want to come up on this? Okay, I just had a couple questions on this. Obviously, this comes from the place and space of what butane is actually used for in labs, and there have been several explosions as a heat source, and looking at what it's being used for, butane honey oil and potent marijuana concentrate. So I understand all of those things. Are we looking at it asked to show identification, limit the amount of butane that can be purchased by one person at a time, and require the vendors either lock up the butane or place it in a location inaccessible to customers. With that, is there a quantity in mind already? Are there other ordinances and other municipalities that we're trying to structure this after? Or are we the first?
Yes, sir. Versailles, by way of introduction, Captain Hearn, Gang and Narcotics Division. To my right is Detective Henri. He's from our lab squad. There are no other ordinances that are in play with this.
Okay.
We do find that it's a significant issue. We have observed these regular people, but they go to these locations, get very large quantities of the butane. We surveil them back to their residences, and they create illegal labs.
So, but we're looking, it says to ask for, number one, show identification and limit the amount. Is there an age that you're allowed to purchase butane in the state of California? Is it restricted?
There is no age. Anybody at any age can go up and buy butane.
Okay. And there's no amount that's ever been, and is there an amount proposed?
We're looking at that now. We're working with the DA's office as well. We actually submitted some legislation to the state, which still bouncing back and forth.
This is what I'm going to ask to do. There are certainly a lot of members very, very interested in this. I'm going to ask that it be moved on to the City Council, instructing the City Attorney to draft and prepare and present the ordinance. But I'd also like a report to go along with that from the department with the recommendations on what exactly are we looking at. So rather than just having an ordinance, I think we need some guidelines and suggestions from the department, specifically from LAPD, on exactly what it is that you're looking at in terms of quantity and in terms of some of these logistical issues. The fact that you're asking for an ID for a person that there's no age limit, do we have a conflict of that? What would be a violation of that ordinance? I think there needs to be a lot more work done on this. So if you can work with the city attorney, but develop a report. So that'll be the instruction from this committee to move it on to council with an instruction that the city attorney draft the ordinance, but also that the department, Los Angeles Police Department, prepare a report with their recommendations and suggestions as to what the ordinance is and what the motion's asking for specifically.
Yes, and this will be in council tomorrow.
Great. Okay. Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. With that, we have item 12, and we have a number of speaker cards. Harlan Hobbs, followed by Laura Franks. And if you all can come up if you'd like at one time. This says Nicole on behalf of. We don't have a behalf of way to do it, but Nicole can actually speak on her own if you'd like. Followed by Dwayne, and it looks like Mackle, and Kyle, or Kylie. Apologize if I'm botching any of the names. I apologize for that in advance. And thank you for being here this morning. Sir.
Okay. My name is Harlan Hobbs, and I'm the only person that laid claim to the reward offered by Mitch Englander for the apprehension of a double murderer in 2011. Without having some of the most important facts supporting my claim to the entire reward, the police commissioner recognized my role in the case was substantially more important than was being presented. Today, I ask you to please consider these facts that the commission did not have an opportunity to examine or consider. On August 14th, before the reward was offered, I contacted Devonshire detectives and supplied them with information that led to Zubek. Unfortunately, undercover officers lost him. On August 20th, homicide detectives reached out to me and asked for my assistance. I used my Jeep as a lure to bring Zubek out of hiding. A few hours later, he was in custody, bringing an end to a 10-day manhunt. I provided evidence in the form of savings bonds. During prosecution, the bonds were used by the District Attorney Blake against Zubek and were directly related to the motive for the murder.
Go ahead and finish up.
Thank you. I testified at the trial, and I've made a choice to forgo anonymity to protect my interests that were being denied. I ask you to please make the right choice and show the people of the city that you will honor a reward when a citizen steps forward.
Great. Excellent. Thank you. Ma'am, you could this morning, please state your name and.
I'm sorry?
Please just state your name and you go ahead
My
and
name
start.
is Laura Franks. I'm roommate to Mr. Hobbs.
Excellent.
Basically, I just wanted to make a couple of points today. The city streets are much safer now because of Harlan's help. I think that there needs to be a better structure to the reward system. There were several officers that were supportive in the help that he had given. They were told, once contacted 4 years later after the fact, they were told not to give their statement to Mr. Hobbs. I find that also the reports that were made that you have before you should be available to the public as well. I'm personally a witness to his help and the things that he did, and I wasn't allowed to give my report or statement to the facts, toward this reward. I think that I think that those reports do need to be made publicly available. Two, I think they should be inclusive of all the witnesses. And I'm sorry. And I just wanted to say that I think that you should reward him the full amount for the help that he did give.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ma'am, morning.
Hi, good morning. My name is Nicole, and I'm speaking on behalf of Amy.
Wait, you actually got to just speak on behalf of yourself, unless Amy's here.
Well, Amy couldn't attend today.
So you can speak on behalf of yourself. We just don't have the ability under the rules to speak on behalf of somebody else, but you could speak on behalf of yourself.
Well, okay.
So we'll start our clock over again, please.
Well, of course, I truly believe that Harlan deserves the reward. He caught a murderer. I mean, come on, this guy was insane. And I believe, it's taken so long for him to get this reward, which I find really, really odd and bizarre. And I know that the cops lied, and there was a lot of, misinformation. And knowing Harlan, he's a hero. So I do believe he deserves this reward.
Okay. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Sir. Good morning.
Hi, my name is Dwayne Mack. I'm also a friend of Mr. Hobbs. And basically, just so understand that if a reward of this amount of $75,000 was offered, why would they renege on it? If it's a matter of the LAPD feeling embarrassed, they shouldn't look at it that way, honestly. And, we're told that if the public can assist LAPD by using the We Tip line, then I think that Mr. Hobbs, being a citizen, saw the need and the ability and acted on it. If more people would step up to the plate and, there'll be more criminals off the street.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. And is it Kyle? Kylie?
Hi, I'm Kyle. I'm friends with Mr. Hobbs. So there was a reward offered for $75,000. There weren't any other stipulations other than that you had to aid in the arrest and conviction, which if Mr. Hobbs was given more than 2 minutes to speak, he'd be able to prove that with evidence. I don't know, it just doesn't seem like there's an unbiased third party. It seems like the LAPD kind of gets to control how things move or happen. There's no formula for the reward system, how it's paid out, so you guys should just honor the obligations that you owe him.
Okay, thank you.
Until you figure out a formula. Thank you.
Thank you all. Okay, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
We're going to have discussion with the department as well. Thank you very much. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your testimony as well. If we can have just somebody from the department come on up and just walk us through what procedures had gone through thus far, and then we'll take it from there.
Good morning.
Morning.
Unfortunately...
If you could just state your name, Harry, for the record.
Harry Edo, on behalf of the department. Unfortunately, our staff was not able to be here today, so I'm not 100% exactly sure.
But just walk me through.
Process is.
Yeah, walk me through this. The recommendation Well, first and foremost, just so most people know how this is initiated. Oftentimes, and most oftentimes, the reward, particularly for a homicide, is not initiated by the council member. It's actually initiated by the department. The council member does it on behalf of the department. The department or the detectives will contact a council member's office or a council member directly and say, we've exhausted our resources. We need help. We need the eyes and ears of the public. We need tips. We need information that's going to lead to the apprehension and conviction of somebody who killed someone. And that's what we do. In fact, we have standing rewards for a number of other things, like graffiti. We just paid one out today, $1,000. We have standing rewards for hit and run crimes on an escalating scale. And so in a homicide situation, we've even had rewards given out for animal cruelty. In a homicide situation, we don't have a standing reward. We have a system where the department and either a division or the detectives directly will actually notify us and contact us and saying we need a reward. And in fact, if it's a very serious crime, we'll even go further and have a press conference on it and announce that we're asking for information that will lead to the apprehension and conviction, any information whatsoever. Few of these are ever paid out. Some are, but few are. Few because the public doesn't get involved enough. It's nothing more than an incentive to get people to step up and do the right thing. That if you have information that's going to lead to the apprehension and conviction of a criminal, particularly a murder suspect, we want to get that person off the streets, obviously, as quickly as possible, and bring them to justice. And give some closure to the family, which also is very important. And I don't want that to be missed. In this particular case, the department did contact me directly and asked for me to put in a reward motion. It's typically $50,000. In this case, it was two individuals, so it was up to $75,000 in 2011 in this case. The department contacted me, and then it went to the police commission. Is that correct?
Correct. A report is done for the chief of police. The chief of police would then concur with that report as appropriate. Then it goes before the Board of Police Commissioners.
So the report is, and the recommendation is made to the police commission, and that amount was for how much?
That amount was for $17,500.
For $17,500?
Correct.
And what happened then at the police commission?
My understanding at the commission, they raised that amount, which I believe is their discretion to do, to $37,500.
$37,500, which is roughly, what, half, right?
Yeah. Okay. So
okay.
That's...
And then that recommendation then comes back
to the
over
council.
to here, and then to committee, public safety, and then it goes on to the full city council. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. And do we have the copy of the administrative code that walks us through the process or procedures on reward motions?
Josh Drake from the CLA's office. I have that, council member.
If you can just read that into the record.
Well, it's a fairly long section, but I have one segment.
The key section.
The relevant one. Section 19.126 is city council review, and number 2 under that is all decisions with respect to the relevance or materiality of information received, whether or not utilizing establishing the identity, apprehension, or where applicable, the arrest and conviction of any one or more persons provides a basis for payment of a reward are within the sole discretion of the city council.
Okay. Thank you. So here's the thing. Oftentimes, the police department or the detectives will say that an individual's tip or help or assistance did aid or help. Oftentimes, detectives feel they probably had a lead or a suspect, or they would have gotten that person anyway, or that information or the assistance or the help didn't technically lead to the apprehension and the conviction, but it did help, and therefore a percentage of the award is granted. And we've done that in many cases. Or oftentimes there's more than one individual that helps us and helps the department, and then it's split. In this case, there were more than one person that helped, except for the fact that there was only one person that put in a claim. And so I recognize the one person that put in a claim. I also want to bring this to a personal note. I sat, not where you're sitting. I sat on the side of the victim's family, asking for the Los Angeles City Council to put a reward motion in to lead to the apprehension and conviction of the person who killed my uncle. was far before I was on the city council. That reward was never paid out because nobody ever stepped up. Nobody helped. We didn't have individuals from the public that had the guts to do the right thing, no matter what it was, to what degree. I don't care. It doesn't matter, quite frankly, if you did 100% of the work or not. The fact is that, and it doesn't matter to me, quite frankly, if the police department was doing a phenomenal job and they would have eventually caught that person. The fact is, you helped Mr. Hobbs catch that person and apprehend them faster than the department would have done so on their own. The department would not have come to me and asked for a reward motion if they were able to do it and had all the information. They're fully capable. They just don't always have a lead. They need the public's help. We need the public to assist us in solving these crimes. Too many crimes go unsolved every year. We have 1-800-TIP lines. We have 1-800-ASK-LAPD. We work with all of these different outreach and community-based and faith-based organizations to ask the public continuously for their help. We're all in this together. It's not the department versus the public. We're all in this together. And more importantly, we've got a murderer off the street and hopefully some closure to the family. I think it's important to send a message, two messages. One, to the general public. When we put a reward motion out there, we're serious about it. And if you help us, I believe you're deserving of it in its entirety. And two, the message to you to say thank you. Thanks for doing the right thing. Thank you for helping not only the residents of the city of Los Angeles, but for this family as well. I then move that, Mr. O'Farrell, that we move to grant Mr. Hobbs the entire $75,000 and move this on to the full city council.
No objections here.
Okay, and then that'll be the order. Thank you, is all that needs to be said. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. All right. With that, that concludes this agenda.